Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. On Fridays, we talk about the product owner role in Scrum. We talk about patterns and anti-patterns that relate to ours and the team's collaboration with the product owner. And we've also put together a course to help you navigate that relationship. There's 18 modules, nearly 8 hours of tools, techniques, videos, handouts, presentations you can use to help you and your team work better with your product owner. The course is available at bit.ly/coachyourPO. All lowercase, all one word. That's bit.ly/coachyourPO. And now, on to the show, the Product Owner Show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Friday TGIF and Product Owner episode. This week with our tag team, Lorna Mason and John Lawrence. Hi, y'all. Welcome back.
Hello.
Hello.
So we'll dive straight into the product owner mess or pit of despair, however we would like to call it, because we'll talk about bad product owner anti-patterns. And we'll start with John. So John, share with us what might have been potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
I think I touched on a point which you mentioned yesterday. I think it was yesterday in the session where we're talking around kind of product ownership not being a role, but kind of being the responsibility of multiple people. And I think it's a really good point, because one of the bad PO situations I've seen before is the product owner who everything is about them. Everything has to be through them. They'll sort their backlog in secrecy. They'll tell the team the little bits that they feel the team need to know. They'll tell the stakeholders what they need to know, but there isn't kind of communication coming all the way through. So the team feel very much cut off, just being told the bits that they need to understand. The backlog can suddenly be reformed the day before the sprint with new information, because they've gone to the stakeholder, yeah, we haven't started sprint, we start it tomorrow. So, you know what, yeah, we'll do all of those tickets. And the tickets haven't been understood by the team. I know some teams work in the sense that during your sprint planning, you'll elaborate stories and you'll understand them there and then. But with the teams I've worked with, we always do that up front so we can identify dependencies and then make sure we've got a healthy backlog. And yeah, I think probably one of the worst situations I've seen is where a product owner was continuously saying yes to stakeholders, yeah, we'll bring that into the sprint, even during the sprint, and pushing us over capacity. And there was no negotiation with the team of, can we bring this in? If we do, can we switch something out? It was just, oh, let's just have another ticket in. And the team's morale was then very low, because they were constantly challenged in the sprint review of, well, why didn't you deliver this? And the product owner looked at the team and asked them, well, why didn't you? And if they said, well, actually, because you brought in this ticket, well, you didn't challenge me. And it wasn't a healthy environment. So to overcome this, that product owner was very data-driven. So talk to them about the data, talk to them about how capacity and velocity works, and how actually we need to go back to the Scrum basics of, if we need to bring something in, we need to renegotiate the team, but we shouldn't be immediately agreeing it without speaking to the team. So really kind of taking it back to those basics.
That's a great set of anti-patterns, actually. It's not just one, but of course, in this case, it was in one person. It's quite amazing. Definitely can relate to many of these anti-patterns. But this is not where the pit of despair ends, because Lorna also has a great example of an anti-pattern in the product owner role to share with us. So go ahead, Lorna.
I mean, I've got loads, but a real example for me is where the company culture's actually failed a product owner and led to their behaviour. So I worked with someone who was basically told that they had no progression at the company. And I think that's just the biggest killer for anyone, isn't it? Being told, no, you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to stay where you are. And that person just checked out. And so they were in their role, they checked out, and they just left the team almost hanging. So you'd be getting ready to go into a meeting and they'd be going off to get a coffee. So as their Scrum Master, I'd be like, okay, we've got planning now. So let's go to planning. We'd go in with our laptops and I'd be there with a backlog going, right, okay, let's look at what we've got. And we'd be trying to muddle through, and they'd be like, well, Lorna, you're not a product owner. You can't really do this. You shouldn't be doing this. And we try and sort of hash together some sort of a planning session. They didn't show up for demos. They didn't show up for pretty much anything, actually. And so that anti-pattern of the behavior, they were like, well, I don't need to be there. The team have everything. It's the team's job. I'm just here to feed them requirements occasionally and write the odd story. So they felt like there was no value in their role because the company didn't have any faith in their role. So they stopped showing up for the team.
This is a great example of something we've talked about several times this week here with you, which is the focus on people, right? Like somebody told this person something that would even very predictably create a very good reason for disengagement and perhaps even searching for another job.
Oh, they were, absolutely.
Yeah,
they left soon after. But, how can you tell someone something like that and expect them to carry on as normal?
Yeah, you can't. Right?
No, exactly.
Which then begs the question, how is this even possible? Like, how can we convey that information? I mean, maybe a tip here would be find another PO before you communicate that message, if that message is unavoidable, right? Because it might have been a very underhand way of pushing this person out as well.
Potentially.
But for me, I think that this is a very concrete, very practical, very specific story about how taking people into account is so key in the performance of teams, and in this case also the product owner.
Yeah, and I think it goes deeper than this question goes deeper than just product owner, because I talk about people a lot, but I think when a lot of companies miss the boat when they talk about Agile generally, this whole we'll go Agile, we'll do an Agile transformation, and what they really miss is that Agile is so people centric, and that's why it fails so often, because they just miss the fact that they need to engage with people and understand people. You can't just overlay a framework and expect it to work, because they need that trust. They need people to work together. They need those conversations to happen. And they need to abolish some of this hierarchy that exists, because it won't work if people don't talk to each other and communicate. You can go into all these big companies and go Agile, and I'm flashing inverted commas wildly at the screen here, but it's not going to work if Mr. Director won't engage with some of the lower level people who are actually doing the work. Because unless the requirements are communicated and things are understood, it's just going to fail. And you can spend as much as you like.
Absolutely. And I'll interject here to say that we have a book being published by the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. It's now in beta, so people can go and start reading it for free already, even now. I'll put the link on the show notes, which is called Shift from Product to People, to Lorna's point that she just made very enthusiastically. You guys didn't see the video, but I did. All right, next we'll go and end up on a high, because it is, after all, Friday, and we want to be in good mood as we go out for our pint in the pub, or a cup of tea in this case. So let's dive into the opposite, the mirror image of what we just discussed. John, let's start with you. What might have been the best product owner example you've worked with in your career?
I'm, again, lucky to have worked with a number of brilliant product owners. I'm going to say that for any of my previous product owners who are listening. So I think one of them, the way that she worked with the team and she engaged with the team was really, really incredible, that she was part of the team. We'd done a lot of work to kind of form the team, and there was the communication. There was, I want to see the team succeed, and I'm here on hand to do whatever I can to make sure they succeed. I've got a good backlog. I'm creating these, and it's something which I've seen other product owners more recently as well, of the engagement. So coming back to the people side, it is so important about actually having the people kind of communicating and it being personal. But also, one really good trait of all of those Scrum Masters is the fact that they didn't make it about them. They really made sure that everyone was bought into kind of what the vision was. Everyone understood. Things were introduced to the team at the right time, and the backlog was stable, in a sense of near the top, stable, and it was emergent lower down. Being able to make sure that everyone's kind of brought on a journey was so important, and everyone understanding. Probably a good way of summarizing it was everyone understanding why we're doing what we're doing. Not just we need to do this, but understanding the value behind it. So the business need this because it's going to help us sell 1,000 extra policies over here. And giving the feedback to the team afterwards was really important. When the change goes, a lot of time people assume, well, the engineers don't care, it's done, it's out the door. But no, from the teams which I've worked with, everyone wants to know, well, did it actually do what we wanted? Did we get that? What was the feedback? And the good product owners I've worked with have fed that back to go, that change you did a month ago, we hit target, brilliant. Yeah, we've done it, we've exceeded it. And it's a big pat on the back to the team, and it really boosts the team.
Yeah, that's a very concrete example of how to include the team in the whole story, right? It's not just, here are the requirements, now do your thing, but it's actually, you did and was excellent, and here are the results, like, making the team part of the whole journey of the product. I think that's a great example. How about you, Lorna? What would you say is the best product owner you've ever worked with?
I have worked with one really exceptional one in a previous role, and she came into a really difficult team. I think it was just her attitude. She had really good experience. She knew exactly what she was doing. And she took a team that had kind of been in holding pattern, and just plugging out the work and working through requirements. And she did a product owner role. And she understood how the synergy should work between a product owner and a scrum master, and took away some of the stuff that I'd been doing because I kind of had to pick up the slack, and she ran with it as a product owner. And she came to meetings prepared, and she understood the market, and she understood the why of what we were doing, and she could present that to the team. And then when they fed back to her, she could take that away and then adapt and change things and come back to them with different requirements or, different market preferences and things like that. For me, that made my life a lot easier. And then she could, she had the confidence to say to me, well, actually, Lorna, you shouldn't be doing that. I'm taking that back. So it was just that real, when you work together with someone and you have that confidence to say, well, actually, I'm doing that. You're doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. We didn't feel bad about stepping on each other's toes. And it just felt like a really solid relationship, where you could just get stuff done. And the team really respected her. She was really efficient and just really engaged and prepared and on it all the time. And yeah, it was just my favorite experience. It was a pleasure going to work every day because she just knew what she was doing.
One aspect of that I want to highlight, which is something that I've harped on quite a lot here on the podcast, is exactly that chemistry, that relationship between the product owner and the scrum master, because they can really be the dynamic duo that makes the team deliver way beyond their own expectations of what's possible. But they can also be the reason why the team doesn't deliver when the relationship doesn't work with them. So I think that's a key aspect of great product owners, that they work very well with their scrum master and, of course, the team and the stakeholders. But specifically with the scrum master, the relationship needs to work as clockwork, as they say. So we are getting close to the end here. It's been a pleasure to have you guys as a tag team here this week. But before we do go, do share with us, where can we find out more about you and the work that you're doing? Let's start with John.
So first of all, thank you for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have us this week. It really has been great to share some thoughts and some stories. So you can find me on my LinkedIn page, John Lawrence Inshore. And I think myself and Lorna are hoping to, I'll probably jumping down here a little bit, but hoping to share some blogs around kind of what we're doing at Inshore, and also having a look at see if we can put any conference talks together so there will be more information to come out on our LinkedIn profiles. But yeah, there's also the Inshore LinkedIn profile as well, where there'll be lots of information about our blog posts, where we'll keep everyone updated on how we're progressing with the new ways of working, which we're doing.
Yeah, as John said, I'm also on LinkedIn, Lorna Mason. Please give Inshore a follow. We are hiring at the moment. We do have some really good roles available. And we are, like John said, we're trying to put together some sort of a blog so you can follow our Agile journey. But yeah, by announcing it here, it means we have to do it. So I'm making us accountable. But yeah, thank you for having us. It's been a challenge. This is out of my comfort zone, but we've really enjoyed it, I think. So thank you.
It's been brilliant. Thank you ever so much.
Well, I enjoyed it thoroughly. So thank you both for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.